Have you ever been in a conversation where someone looked you right in the eye, smiled, and said all the right things, but somehow you felt nothing? And then in another moment, someone just looked at you, said almost nothing, and yet you felt this spark, this deep unspoken connection. Why is that? What is that thing that makes a connection real? And why is no one talking about it? The truth is, deep emotional connection isn't built on just chemistry or grand gestures or even hours of conversation. It's built on 6 simple but often missed principles that quietly decide whether someone truly feels seen, heard, and safe with you. Have you ever been talking to someone and even though they were standing right in front of you, it felt like they weren't really there? Maybe their eyes kept darting to their phone. Maybe they nodded at the right times, but their mind was somewhere else. And then think about the opposite experience. When someone locks eyes with you, leans in slightly, and it's like the rest of the world fades away. You feel seen. You feel heard. That right there is presence. And presence is the foundation of every deep, emotional connection you'll ever build. Presence is so rare today that we often don't even realize how much we crave it. We live in a world where attention is scattered in 1,000 directions. Notifications, emails, endless scrolling, thinking about what's next instead of what's now. And when everyone is so distracted, simply showing up with all of yourself becomes a superpower. It's the difference between someone walking away from you feeling invisible and someone walking away thinking, wow, I don't know why, but I feel lighter after talking to them. Being present isn't just about physically being there, it's about the energy you bring into the moment. When you're present, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next or whether you're making the right impression. You're not rehearsing responses in your head or mentally checking your calendar. Instead, you're fully absorbed in what's happening right now, the words, the tone, the pauses, the small shifts in body language. You're listening with your ears, your eyes, and your intuition. And people feel that. They feel it deeply because it's so rare. Imagine you're on a date. You're sitting across from someone and you notice how their eyes light up when they talk about their work or how their voice softens when they talk about their family. Being present means you notice these subtleties. You respond to their energy instead of just their words. You laugh when they're playful. You lean in when they're sharing something meaningful. And you allow silence without feeling the need to fill it. That silence, that calm space, tells them, I'm here. Take your time. You don't have to rush your thoughts with me. That kind of presence creates trust faster than any clever line or perfectly rehearsed story. Presence also transforms conflicts and difficult conversations. When someone feels you are truly there with them, not defending yourself, not planning a rebuttal, but really listening, their walls come down. They stop feeling the need to prove themselves or fight for your attention because they already have it. In that space, solutions emerge naturally because the focus shifts from me versus you to figuring this out together. And here's the part most people miss. Presence is not just for others. It's also a gift to yourself. When you learn to be fully in the moment, you start to experience your life in high definition. You notice the subtle beauty in everyday moments, the way the sunlight filters through the window in the morning, the quiet joy in someone's laugh, the warmth of holding someone's hand without rushing to let go. These moments are always there, but you only feel them when you slow down enough to notice. If you want to cultivate presence, start small. Next time you're in a conversation, silence the noise, literally and mentally. Put your phone face down. Take a slow breath before the person speaks. Notice their eyes, their expression, the way their words feel. When your mind drifts, gently bring it back. Over time, this becomes second nature. You begin to feel conversations instead of just having them. Presence also requires patience. It's not something you do perfectly. It's something you practice. You won't always get it right. Sometimes you'll be tired, distracted, or anxious. But when you catch yourself drifting, that's your cue to come back. Presence isn't about perfection. It's about the constant choice to return to the moment again and again. And here's the magic. When you make someone feel like they're the only person in the room, you're telling them without words that they matter. You're saying, I see you. I value you. Right now, Nothing else is more important than this moment with you. That's why presence feels so magnetic. People aren't drawn to you because of what you say, they're drawn to how you make them feel. And nothing makes someone feel more valued, more understood, or more connected than the rare experience of being truly, deeply seen. So the next time you're with someone, a partner, a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, challenge yourself to be fully there. Let the world wait for a few minutes. Look them in the eye, listen with your whole being, and give them that gift of undivided attention. Because in a world where everyone is desperate to be noticed, presence isn't just powerful, it's unforgettable. Have you ever noticed how often we skim the surface in our conversations? Someone asks, "How was your day?" And we reply with the same empty line, "Good, you?" And just like that, an opportunity for connection disappears. We move on, none the wiser, unaware of how many chances we let slip by because we never dug deeper. The truth is, curiosity, real, genuine curiosity, is one of the most underrated tools for building a deep emotional connection. When you're truly curious about someone, you open a doorway for them to step through and share parts of themselves they don't often reveal. Most people live in a world where they're asked the same predictable, surface level questions. How are you? What do you do? Where are you from? And so they give the same rehearsed, automatic answers. But when you break that pattern, when you ask questions that no one else asks, you give someone permission to open up. You tell them silently that you're actually here, that you want to understand who they really are, not just the version of them the world gets to see. Think about this. If you ask someone what they do, they'll tell you their job title. But if you ask them what they love about their work or what part of their day makes them lose track of time, you'll hear their passion. If you ask someone where they grew up, they'll tell you a city. But if you ask what growing up there felt like, you'll hear their story. The moments that shaped them, the experiences that made them who they are. Curiosity doesn't just gather information, it uncovers layers, like peeling back the wrapping paper on a gift. And here's the key. Curiosity isn't about interrogating someone or firing off questions like an interview. It's about slowing down and following the thread of their words. If someone mentions they used to travel a lot, don't just nod and move on. Ask, what was your favorite trip and why? If someone says they love music, ask, what song feels like it was written for you? These questions make people stop and think. They make them feel seen because you're showing interest in what actually matters to them. Real curiosity is fueled by a desire to understand, not just to respond. Too often, we listen only to reply. We wait for a pause so we can tell our story, share our thought, or give our advice. But when you let go of that need and simply lean in to understand, people can feel it. They feel the difference between someone who is talking to fill silence and someone who genuinely wants to know their world. That difference creates trust. And trust is the foundation of connection. Curiosity also requires patience. Sometimes the first answer you get isn't the full story. If you sense there's more beneath the surface, stay with it. Maybe someone says, "Yeah, I've been busy with work." You could nod and change the subject. Or you could say, "What's been keeping you so busy? Is it something exciting or more of the stressful kind of busy?" That gentle curiosity invites them to share the truth. Maybe they're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe they just got promoted. Or maybe they're quietly struggling and no one has taken the time to ask. There's also an art to balancing curiosity with presence. When you ask, don't just wait for the answer. Listen deeply to what's being said and what isn't. Pay attention to their tone, their body language, the way their eyes light up or dim down. Sometimes the most powerful connection happens not because of the question itself, but because of how fully you listen to the answer. When someone feels that level of attention, they naturally start sharing more, often without even realizing it. And here's something most people never think about. Genuine curiosity creates a safe space. When you ask someone a thoughtful question and they see you're not judging their answer, they begin to relax. They begin to trust that with you. They can be honest. And when someone feels safe enough to share their unfiltered truth, the connection shifts from casual to deep. That's when people start telling you things they don't tell anyone else, not because you pried, but because your curiosity showed them they could. The beauty of curiosity is that it works in every context. It deepens romantic relationships, strengthens friendships, and even transforms professional interactions. Think about a colleague who always keeps things professional and distant. The moment you ask them, "What do you love most about what you do?" Hear and really listen to their answer, you move from colleague to confidant. You step into their world, and in doing so, you allow them to step into yours. The real secret is that people are far more interesting, layered, and complex than we give them credit for. But you only discover that when you're willing to go beyond the surface. Curiosity doesn't just change how others experience you, it changes how you experience the world. Conversations stop feeling like exchanges of data and start feeling like journeys. Every person becomes a story, and every story becomes an opportunity for connection. And when you approach people with that kind of genuine curiosity, you don't just make them feel special. You make the connection itself unforgettable. Have you ever been in a moment where you wanted to say what you truly felt, but you stopped yourself? Maybe you thought, what if they judge me? What if they don't understand? What if I sound weak? So you smiled, said you were fine, and changed the subject. We do this so often that it becomes second nature, protecting ourselves with polished answers and carefully curated emotions. But here's the thing, the deepest connections you will ever have don't come from being perfect. They come from being honest. Emotional honesty is the bridge between two people that transforms an ordinary interaction into something unforgettable. When you think about the people you feel closest to, they're rarely the ones who always had the perfect advice or said the perfect things. They're the ones who made you feel safe because they were real. They didn't pretend to have it all figured out. They let you see their fears, their flaws, their dreams, and their doubts. Emotional honesty isn't about spilling every detail of your life or sharing things that aren't ready to be shared. It's about allowing someone to see you. The real, unfiltered version in a way that says, this is who I am. I'm not hiding. The power of this honesty starts with self-awareness. You can't share what you're unwilling to acknowledge in yourself. If you're feeling anxious, but you keep telling yourself you're fine, how can anyone truly know you? But when you have the courage to say, I'm nervous right now, or this is harder for me than I expected, you create a moment of raw humanity that invites others to step into it with you. Vulnerability is magnetic because it's so rare. Most people are walking around wearing masks, trying to appear in control, and when you drop yours, you give permission for someone else to drop theirs too. This is what makes emotional honesty such a powerful connector. It builds trust faster than almost anything else. Think about it. We instinctively trust the person who admits they made a mistake more than the person who insists they're always right. We trust the friend who says, I don't have the answer, but I'm here with you, more than the one who throws clutches at us. And we trust the partner who admits, I was scared you wouldn't feel the same way, far more than the one who acts like they never cared in the first place. Honesty doesn't weaken you, it humanizes you. But honesty is not just about sharing the heavy or difficult emotions. It's also about owning your joy, your excitement, your desires. So many people downplay their happiness because they're afraid of looking arrogant or being misunderstood. But saying, I'm proud of myself for doing that, or I feel so happy when I'm around you, is just as powerful as admitting your fears. Because connection isn't built only in shared struggles, it's built in shared truth, whatever that truth is. Of course, emotional honesty takes courage. There's always the risk that someone won't respond the way you hope. You might share something vulnerable and be met with silence or with someone who isn't ready to hold that space. And that's okay. Honesty isn't about controlling the reaction. It's about showing up as your authentic self, regardless of what comes back. When you're honest, you're not performing to be liked. You're allowing the right people, the ones who value and understand you, to truly find you. There's also a subtle skill to honesty, knowing how much to share and when. Emotional honesty isn't a floodgate where you tell someone everything all at once. It's more like opening a window, a little at a time, in ways that feel authentic and safe for you. Maybe it starts with admitting, I've been feeling overwhelmed lately, or I get nervous in big groups. Those small moments of truth build over time, creating a foundation where deeper truths can live. And here's what's really beautiful. When you practice emotional honesty, you start to see how it transforms not just your relationships, but you. You begin to release the pressure of being perfect. You stop wasting energy maintaining walls that keep you isolated. You realize that the right connections, the ones that last, are never built on performance. They're built on truth. And every time you choose honesty, you strengthen that muscle, making it easier to be real the next time. Imagine being in a conversation where instead of saying, yeah, everything's fine, you say, actually, it's been a tough week. I'm figuring things out, but it's been a lot. That small moment can turn a casual exchange into a meaningful one. Or imagine telling someone you care about, I was scared to say this, but I really value you. That kind of honesty cuts through the noise and goes straight to the heart. People don't remember the perfect words. They remember the real ones. When you allow yourself to be seen, really seen, something shifts. You stop chasing connection and start creating it. Because deep down, every single one of us wants the same thing: to be understood, accepted, and loved for who we truly are. And that starts with having the courage to take off the mask, to let someone see the truth, and to trust that in that moment of honesty, the connection you're looking for will finally have the space to grow. Have you ever had a conversation where someone was speaking, but you felt like they weren't really saying what they meant? Maybe their words were calm, but their tone carried a quiet sadness. Or they told you they were fine, but their shoulders were slumped, their voice a little too soft, their smile just a little too forced. This is where deep emotional connection is either built or lost. In the ability to listen not just to what someone says, but to what they feel. Listening for feelings, not just words, is an art most people never learn. We're taught to focus on language, on the literal meaning of the word someone uses. But the truth is, words are only part of the story. Emotions live in the pauses, in the sighs between sentences, in the shift of someone's eyes when they're talking about something that hurts or something that lights them up. If you want to build real connection, you have to train yourself to hear what isn't being said out loud. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. They're waiting for their turn to talk, rehearsing their next line while the other person is still speaking. But when you stop trying to rush to your point, when you slow down and truly tune in, you create space for something powerful to happen. People start to open up because they sense, maybe for the first time in a long time, that someone is actually listening. And not just to the words, to them. Think about the last time you felt deeply understood. It probably wasn't because someone gave you the perfect advice or said something profound. It was because they noticed what you were really feeling, even when you didn't say it outright. Maybe you were talking about work, but what you really needed was for someone to notice the frustration in your voice. Maybe you were describing a success, but deep down, you wanted someone to see the pride and excitement behind your words and celebrate with you. Listening for feelings means noticing those layers and responding to the emotion, not just the surface level statement. This kind of listening takes presence. You can't catch the subtle shifts in someone's voice if you're half distracted, checking your phone, or lost in your own thoughts. It requires you to slow down, to be in the moment, and to pay attention not just with your ears, but with your eyes and your intuition. Sometimes, the silence between words tells you more than the words themselves. Sometimes, the way someone exhales before answering a question says everything you need to know about how much they're holding inside. When you start to listen for feelings, your conversations change. Instead of reacting to the words, you respond to the emotion. Someone says, yeah, I guess I'm doing okay. And instead of nodding and moving on, you gently say, it sounds like it's been a hard week. What's been going on? That one moment of acknowledgement can open the door to a much deeper conversation. One that the other person may have been silently hoping someone would invite them into. And it's not just about recognizing pain or struggle. Listening for feelings also means noticing the sparks of joy, excitement, or pride that people often downplay. Someone might casually mention a project they're working on, but you can hear the passion in their voice. When you stop and say, you seem really excited about that, Tell me more. You're validating their emotion, making them feel seen in a way that most people never do. That validation builds trust, and trust is what deepens connection. It also requires a certain kind of emotional courage. When you start to listen at this deeper level, you're going to pick up on things that are uncomfortable. Sadness someone isn't expressing, fear they're trying to hide, tension they don't want to name. And when you do, you have to decide whether to meet them there. Sometimes that means sitting in silence with someone who doesn't have the words yet. Sometimes it means saying, I hear you. I'm here. Take your time. It's not about fixing or offering solutions. It's about holding space for their emotions to exist without judgment. The beauty of listening for feelings is that it transforms the way people experience you. You stop being just another voice in the noise and become someone they can trust, someone they feel safe with. When people feel safe, they share more. They open doors to parts of themselves they usually keep locked. And that's where connection deepens, in the quiet, unguarded moments where someone feels, maybe for the first time in a while, that they don't have to hide. And here's the truth. Everyone wants to feel understood. Every single one of us carries emotions that are rarely expressed, either because we don't have the words or because we're afraid no one will truly listen. When you become the person who doesn't just hear words, but truly understands the feelings behind them, you create an experience that people never forget. You become the person they feel drawn to, not because you have all the answers, but because you've given them the gift of feeling deeply seen. Think about the relationships you remember most vividly. The ones that still make you smile when you think about them. It's rarely the endless text messages or the hours spent on the phone that stand out. It's the moments, the road trip where you got lost and ended up singing your favorite songs at the top of your lungs. The night you sat under the stars sharing stories you'd never told anyone. The afternoon you cooked together and accidentally burned the meal but laughed until your stomach hurt. Those shared experiences are the invisible threads that weave people together, creating bonds that words alone can't match. Shared experiences are the foundation of emotional depth because they create something tangible. A conversation can make you feel connected in the moment, but when you live through something together, it leaves a mark. It becomes a memory you both carry, a moment that only the two of you truly understand. That's why, when you think back to the people you've loved the most, your mind doesn't replay every conversation. It replays the experiences, the moments that made you feel alive and present together. When you share an experience with someone, you're not just spending time, you're building a story. Humans are wired for stories. We remember them, we hold on to them, we share them again and again. Every shared moment becomes a chapter in the story of your connection. Maybe it's the time you stayed up talking until sunrise, or the time you dared each other to try something new and ended up discovering something unforgettable. These are the things that create closeness because they create a sense of us. And us is where connection lives. The beauty of shared experiences is that they don't have to be grand or extravagant. Sure, a spontaneous trip to another city or a night out can create incredible memories, but so can the simple things. Taking a quiet walk together after dinner, sitting in a cafe for hours, lost in conversation while the world rushes by. Even mundane moments, like running errands together or cooking a simple meal, can turn into moments of connection when you're fully present. It's not about the activity itself, it's about the feeling you create in that moment of being together. And it's not just about creating fun memories, it's about building trust and understanding. When you share experiences, you get to see each other in different environments, in different moods, under different kinds of pressure. You see how they handle stress when the flight gets delayed, how they react when plans fall apart, how they light up when something excites them. These moments reveal the layers of who someone is far more than sitting across a table asking questions ever could. Shared experiences allow you to learn each other in ways that words alone can't teach you. These moments also build emotional anchors. Life moves fast and relationships go through ups and downs. But when you've created meaningful experiences together, you have something solid to hold on to when things get hard. You can look back and say, remember that night we stayed up laughing until we cried? Or, Remember when we didn't think we'd make it through that trip, but we did. Those shared memories become proof of your connection, reminders that you've been through something together and come out stronger. Creating these experiences requires intentionality. It's easy to get stuck in routines, to have the same conversations, to spend time together without ever really doing anything new. But when you make the effort to step outside your comfort zone, to try something different, to create moments instead of just letting time pass, you give your connection room to grow. It doesn't have to be complicated. Suggest a new restaurant. Take a class together. Watch a sunrise. Be curious about what you can experience together, not just what you can talk about. What's powerful about shared experiences is that they create opportunities for vulnerability without forcing it. There's something about being side by side, doing something together, that lowers walls. Maybe it's the shared laughter when things don't go perfectly, or the quiet moments when words aren't necessary. Those are the spaces where people often open up, where they share things they didn't even plan to say, because they feel safe in the moment you've created together. And here's the secret. It's not about the experience itself. It's about the emotion it evokes. You can go skydiving with someone and still feel no real connection if you're not present with each other in the moment. On the other hand, you can spend an evening sitting on the floor with takeout, talking about your lives, and create a memory you'll never forget. It's the feeling of closeness, of being in sync, that makes an experience matter. Shared experiences are what turn acquaintances into friends, friends into family, and partners into soulmates. They create a foundation that words alone can't build. They give you something to hold on to when life gets messy and unpredictable. And most importantly, they remind you that connection isn't just about talking. It's about living, really living, in the moments you create with someone else. When you prioritize those moments, you're not just spending time together. You're building a story worth remembering, one experience at a time. Think about the last time you truly opened up to someone. Not the casual, surface level kind of sharing, but the kind where you let your guard down, exposed the parts of yourself you usually keep hidden, and trusted that the other person wouldn't hurt you with it. That kind of openness doesn't happen in just any environment. It happens when you feel safe, deeply, unshakably safe. Emotional safety is the invisible foundation of every deep, lasting connection. Without it, all the words, gestures, and promises in the world can't create the depth you're looking for. Emotional safety isn't about never having disagreements or never feeling discomfort. In fact, some of the strongest connections are forged in moments of tension and honesty. What emotional safety really means is that no matter what, you can be yourself without fear of being judged, rejected, or belittled. It's knowing that even when you show the most unpolished, raw parts of yourself, the other person will hold space for you with empathy instead of criticism. It's the quiet, powerful trust that says, I can show up as me, and I'm still enough here. This kind of safety doesn't happen by accident. It's built slowly with intention. It starts with consistency. People feel safe when your words and actions line up, when you're the same person on a good day as you are on a hard one. Consistency builds predictability, and predictability builds trust. If someone never knows which version of you they're going to get, warm and present one day, cold and distracted the next, they'll never fully relax in your presence. Emotional safety begins with showing up reliably, again and again, until the other person knows they can lean on you without wondering if you'll disappear when things get complicated. It also grows from empathy. Emotional safety is created when people feel understood, when they sense that you're not just hearing them, but genuinely trying to understand their perspective. That doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say or do, but it does mean you listen without rushing to correct or fix them. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say in a moment of vulnerability is, I hear you. That must be really hard. Those words don't solve the problem, but they create the safety someone needs to keep sharing, to keep trusting that they're in a space where they won't be shamed for what they feel. Boundaries are another critical piece of safety. It may sound counterintuitive, but clear, healthy boundaries actually make people feel more secure. When you know where someone's limits are and when they respect yours, you stop walking on eggshells, wondering what's okay and what isn't. Boundaries create structure, and structure builds trust. It's saying, here's what I need to feel safe. And hearing, I can honor that. That mutual respect allows a connection to deepen without fear of overstepping or being misunderstood. Emotional safety also means creating space for imperfection. Too many connections crumble under the weight of unrealistic expectations. The pressure to always say the right thing, to always be strong, to always get it right. But safety lives in the space where you can admit, I messed up, and know that the other person won't weaponize your mistake against you. It's the comfort of knowing that love, respect, and connection don't disappear when you're not perfect. In that kind of environment, people are free to grow, to evolve, and to be honest about who they are without fear of losing the relationship. And it works both ways. Creating safety for someone else isn't just about how you show up for them. It's also about how they experience you when you're the one being vulnerable. When you open up about your fears, your struggles, or your hopes, you give them a chance to show you that you can trust them. Safety is reciprocal. When you feel safe enough to share and they respond with compassion, it deepens the connection and creates a cycle of trust that grows stronger over time. It's also worth noting that safety doesn't mean avoiding hard conversations. In fact, the deepest safety is built when you can have those conversations without fear. When you can say, this upset me, or I need something different, and know that you won't be attacked or dismissed, that's when true intimacy develops. Emotional safety creates the space for honesty, even when honesty is uncomfortable, because both people know that the relationship is strong enough to hold it. What makes emotional safety so powerful is that it allows people to stop performing. When you feel safe, you stop overthinking your words, stop editing your emotions, stop trying to be what you think the other person wants you to be. You simply are. And in that space of authenticity, connection flourishes naturally. Because at the core of every meaningful bond is the desire to be fully seen and fully accepted. Emotional safety is what makes that possible. The quiet, steady assurance that no matter what storms you walk through, you don't have to walk through them alone. When you really think about it, everything we've talked about, presence, curiosity, emotional honesty, listening for feelings, sharing experiences, and creating safety, all comes down to one thing: choosing to show up for another human being in a way that is rare and real. Deep emotional connection isn't built overnight, and it's never the result of tricks, perfect timing, or rehearsed lines. It's built in the quiet, consistent choices we make to be here in the moment, to ask and truly care, to share who we are without the mask, to listen beneath the words, to create memories that mean something, and to foster a space where people can simply be themselves. When you practice these things, connection stops feeling like something you chase and starts feeling like something that naturally grows. You begin to notice that the people around you open up more, trust you more, and feel more drawn to you, not because you're saying anything extraordinary, but because you make them feel extraordinary. That is the secret no one talks about that deep. Meaningful relationships aren't about finding the perfect person or even being the perfect person. They're about building moments of real human connection, one interaction at a time. And when you choose to approach every relationship with that intention, to be present, to be curious, to be honest, to listen deeply, to share experiences, and to create safety, you'll find that the connections you build are richer, deeper, and more fulfilling than you ever imagined. Because in the end, what we all want is simple: to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved for exactly who we are.